Morning. You wouldn't believe that when I started to set up this morning, it was bright sunshine. So I changed all the lighting in here to cater to the bright sunshine, and then the bright sunshine went away. So I moved all the lights around so that it wasn't in shadow again, and then bright sunshine came back. So I've given up. So you get what you get. First things off, I have been a right grumpy arse. As you know, things are going on. So my little friend Paula Penguin, bought me that and gave me that, which I thought was very sweet. Not quite sure I'm going to put things for Grumpy to do, but I'm sure things like put more videos on the channel will be in the paperclip. So, first things first. I completely missed the plot a couple of weeks ago because on March the 3rd, it was officially TB 303 day or 303 day. Roland, you know how they love to coin these phrases. So it was 303 day on the 3rd of March. So this is only about 2 weeks late. But I thought it was probably worth, like I did last week when I went over the SP 1200, just going over what the TB 303 was. And in actual fact, what's really interesting, one of the really interesting facts about the 303 is actually, for Roland, it was a commercial failure. So Roland put this unit out into the market space, and actually during its production run, they ended up discounting the remaining units out because they couldn't sell them. And yet nowadays, you know, the 303 is synonymous with dance music. And, you know, units on the market now go for somewhere between, a good one is around about £1,000, and a mint one, I checked this morning, there were a couple of mint ones on eBay, and they were up near close to the £2,000 mark. So, you know, you've gone from something that was initially a commercial failure for the company that made them to a position now where an original 303 is very hard to get hold of, as is, you know, some of the other sort of legendary equipment from that period of time, like the 808 and the 909. So, you know, there we are. And to sort of, you know, mark that fact that it was so popular later in life, Roland obviously then released, as part of their boutique series, the TB03, and have also released, as part of the Aria series, the TB3. So, you know, this is sort of homage to how much of a mistake it was to discontinue it, I suppose, in the first place. Probably because it was a little bit too much ahead of its time. So let's go back and say, what is the 303? So I have never owned a 303, I might add. So I had to go and get some pictures. So there is a picture of an original 303 baseline. Okay, so this thing originally came out in 1981. Well, I think it was 1981 because when I was doing the research, there were a number of sites that said 1982 and a number of sites that said 1981, and I'm not sure which one was which is correct. All I can tell you is I was 11. I was probably 10 or 11 at the time, depending on which year it came out. So I wasn't really into the scene as it was at the time, but it gives you some idea of how old I am now. So anyway, it was released in March of either 81 or 82, I'm not sure, but I think it was 81 actually, if I'm honest. And it only had a production run of about 3 years, and it was finished in 1984, as I said. And the remaining stock that Roland had, they discounted out just to get shot of it, because it wasn't a particularly good seller, and they only sold 10,000 units. So there's only 10,000 of these TB 303s running around the world, and some of those have been modded. So there's not 10,000 originals, and I suspect there's probably not even 10,000 working units anymore. But there was only originally 10,000 of these running around. And this is something I didn't really know about the TB3, is that the TB3 was originally designed as a running mate for the TR606 drum machine. So the idea was you buy both of these things and you'd link them together using CV, because at that point in time if I'm honest. The MIDI wasn't ratified. So MIDI wasn't ratified until a year after this thing came to market. And then MIDI started getting put into synthesizers at that point in time. But at the point this thing was designed and the drum machine was designed, MIDI wasn't a recognized standard across the industry. You tended to have CVs and gates, but you didn't have the MIDI standard. So you didn't have channels, you couldn't communicate between devices like you could a few years later. So these things didn't have MIDI. You know, as I said, at the point in time, these were considered failures by Roland. They didn't hit however many units they wanted to sell, but it was considerably more than 10,000 units. So they dropped it. That was it. So what is the 303? You know, well, this is like some of you saying, you know, teaching you to suck eggs. Everyone knows what TB303. The official word was it was a bassline tool. Okay, that runs a sequence loop that plays typically very electronic sounding bass notes. That's what it was. And another fact I didn't realise as well until I started doing the research on this was it actually was designed as a practice tool. It wasn't designed as a mainstream composing production tool. It was actually designed as a practice tool. So it was designed to give to guitarists and bass players and allow them to practice the notes. So, you know, come up with a riff or something on the 303 and practice those so you could incorporate those into your live sets or your recording sessions. That's what this was designed for. It was never designed for what it eventually got used for. So there you go, another, you know, a bit before it was time. It was designed for one thing, but never actually, you know, wasn't really used for that. It became used for something else. So a few years later, obviously, then comes the drum and bass, the techno scene, the acid scene, but the general sort of dance music genre started to come in and influence how music was made and produced. And that's where the TB303 started to thrive, because dance producers and DJs alike could use this thing to put heavy bass lines, electronic sounding bass lines onto their productions, or even if they were doing it live. So that's where it thrived. It thrived. It was about, well, probably, let's say, 4 years after they stopped making these things, they started to really find their niche in the market. And of course, rather than go back and carry on making some more, Roland didn't. So there was probably some commercial reasons. They probably destroyed all the molds by that point in time, and trying to get the production run back up and running would probably not be an easy thing to do. But yeah, they were 4 or 5 years ahead of where they needed to be. 4 or 5 years further down the line, these things would have gone out the door like absolute crazy. And I'm sure that more than 10,000 units would have been in the market space. You know, it would have been another Roland M1 or, Korg M1, Roland D50. You know, that's sort of where it probably would have ended up. But there we are. You know, that's what it was. When new, these things were about the 240 pounds mark, about the $400. So that gives you an idea of the exchange rate at the time. So we would have got considerably more dollars than we do now to our pounds. And as I said, you know, at the moment, I see these regularly go on eBay for around about £1,000, and I've seen mint ones. As I said this morning when I did a check, I saw mint ones up around the £2,000 mark. So, you know, there we are. That was the 303. Now, what did the 303 actually do? It was actually an incredibly simple tool, looking at what we have nowadays. So, you know, it was just a single oscillator. It had 2 waveforms. It had what they call a ramp waveform, and a square waveform, like that. They were the only 2 waveforms available on this thing out of the box, and it had a really nice functional VCF. So, you know, that's really what made it was the VCF. That's the thing that made this unit really well, and the fact that you could actually change the wave shape and envelope in real time. Now, DJs and producers alike love this sort of thing because they could be doing a set and they could start tweaking knobs. And DJs love tweaking knobs. I mean, I remember doing that all the time when I was when I was DJing back in the day. You know, taking the bass out, running another bass line over the top of it. But you could do that with this unit. You could run this unit over the top of a record, over the top of a bass line, run a drum machine over the top of the bass line, and bang! You know, you can actually have people actually dancing to this, not the record, while you actually went away and got another record out of the box. And I did that on numerous occasions. I can tell you that now. Not being ready to chatting up some sort of young blonde thing who was standing at the door to the DJ booth at the time. Those were the days. But the other thing about this unit was the fact that it was compact. I mean, you know, in terms of size, it was about the size, slightly bigger than what our current boutique is now. I don't have a boutique around me, do I? Yes, I do. There. So, no, I don't. That's not it. I must have put it back. No, I didn't take it back to the studio. It's here somewhere. I can't see it. Yeah, so it's about the size of a boutique, which is probably about the sort of, you know, not much bigger than that really, bit short lengthwise, but a bit wider. So it was incredibly portable. So for somebody on the move, you know, a band or something, having that sort of thing in your, you know, you can just put it in your rucksack and go. Small little power supply, a couple of cables to connect up to. If you had it at the time, some sort of CV device or gated device for time signatures, etc. And you were away. It was really, really simple. The other thing about it was, because it was so easily portable, and it was monophonic as well, so there was only a mono channel came out of this unit. It was no stereo like a lot of things are today, but because it was monophonic, it was quite easy also to run that bass line through the sort of Boss pedals or whoever made the pedals at the time. But you know, so you could do sort of overdrive and chorus and delay and reverb. You could put all these effects on, so you could actually take around with you, if you like, sort of a Boss pedal board. And I remember these because my mates who played guitars all used to walk around with their Boss pedal boards, which was sort of a piece of a grey plastic box about yay big with space for 6 pedals and a tuner. But you could walk around with effectively a Boss pedal board, and you could have all the effects on there, so actually make this bass line really grungy or bright, or depending on what you were trying to do with it. So it made a very portable studio device, if you like, that could be moved from one place to another. So again, that's sort of where sort of popularity came. It was so easy, or you could just have single pedals and just throw it in the back of the rucksack with the unit. But you know, it became very, very portable. So the TB303 now has a place in that sort of legendary archive of legacy tech. You know, the question is, would I buy one? No, not a hope in hell. Wouldn't go near it with a barge pole. Now, there have been, I will explain why I said that in a sec. Now, there have been, over the years, some notable modifications. A number of people have done mods, but the two companies that sort of really sort of stole the forefront was an Aussie company called Devilfish. And they made a mod for the unit, and I actually have a picture of the Devilfish unit here. There. So there's a picture of the Devilfish unit, and as you can see, they've branded it up. So where the original rolling bassline thing used to be over there, they've put their logos over it, if you like, and then they've drilled through, put buttons over here and buttons there. And they also do they do MIDI. There's a MIDI conversion unit, or MIDI add. There's additional filter ranges, and then there's changes to the way the battery works. So they actually put a 302 battery in there, 2032 battery in there for more memory, so that the memory is not volatile anymore. So they make a number of adjustments, and they're in the market space. And obviously this particular photograph comes from Perfect City, which is based in California. So they're obviously selling that unit at the moment. So it's on the market. But so there was one of the adjustments. The only down thing I didn't really like about these when I saw it demoed is you really have to remember what all the toggle switches do, because they don't actually print what the toggle switches do actually on the unit itself. So if you go back and look at that, you can see the toggle switches actually drill through the Roland logo, which personally I really hate doing that sort of thing, but hey ho. That was the first one. So that was sort of, upgrading the existing functionality. And then there was a sort of more vicious upgrade, which was something called the Borg TB303. And that was sort of actually really changed the functionality of the unit itself. In terms of it was, I think they changed the chips out in that particular upgrade, so there was changes to the unit itself. So really, once you've done the Borg TB303 upgrade, you haven't got a TB303 anymore. So why wouldn't I buy one of these? It's very simple. I have one of these. Okay. So I bought this, and I was looking back at the other day about when I did actually buy this. So I bought this in 3-4 years ago. Okay, and that's been sitting in my studio, and I use it quite a lot. And I've got to show you something else I'm going to use this for later on in a different video. So I bought that. That gives me pretty much all the sounds and allows me to play around in real time with the envelope. Okay, so I can do all that on that. Okay, plus it comes with a MIDI interface, and it also has a USB interface to the computer, which is something that TB303 does not have. So in this point, I'm not being purist. I'm actually being practical. That is for me, is a better unit than the original. What's that? So why would I go and buy? Why would I spend upwards of £1,000 on an original when I've got one of those? Fine, and that was only a couple £100 if I remember correctly when it came out. The second reason I wouldn't buy it is because I also have one of those. Okay. That was the boutique reimagined version of the 303 that came out 2 years ago. And again, it has been modelled, or the circuitry has been modelled on the original 303. Now, I've seen videos on the internet about people comparing the original with the boutiques. And yes, the waveforms are slightly off. But I'm going to be honest with you, whenever I've listened to a boutique against the original, apart from the fact in certain circumstances I probably would like the original, there ain't a lot of difference you can hear with the ear between the two. And the boutique for me, although I was originally skeptical about the boutique whole concept, I still don't like not having a keyboard, not having 1/4-inch jacks on the back of it, and a number of other things. I still am anti them from that point of view. But if you're trying to get yourself the sounds of the original unit, these boutiques are damn close. And I mean damn close that it's not indistinguishable. They work the same way. The only difference is in the modern ones they have added additional features on some of the boutiques, like they have done with the 303, on the 03. But having said that, they have MIDI and they have USB interfaces. It makes the world so much easier when you are trying to work with these units. So that's the reason why I wouldn't buy one. But the 303 has a place in that music archive, and we should probably not forget about it. The second thing I'm going to talk about, and this is really, really quick because I am just running out of time, is, as I said, you can probably see I am wearing a Mike and the Mechanics Wobble My Belly t-shirt. And yes, I have been to see Mike and the Mechanics again. It was a last minute thing, and I needed cheering up on Thursday because that was the day my dad died 8 years ago. So went to see Mike and the Mechanics, managed to get last minute tickets. Playing at the local place in Guildford. And all I can say is, that there are groups that you can go and listen to time and time again. And Mike and the Mechanics is a good night out. So for what it cost, which was not a lot, it was a very good night out. If they're touring at a venue near you, and they are going around the UK at the moment, I think they were in Birmingham last night, But if they're touring at a venue near you, I highly recommend getting tickets and going along and seeing them. You won't regret it. It's a great night out, unless of course you don't like Mike and the Mechanics music. On the plus side, I will tell you they do actually play 2 Genesis hits, well, 3 Genesis hits if you count something else, but they actually play 2 Genesis hits while they're playing. For me, that sold the night for me, because I am an absolute massive Genesis fan as well. So not only did I see Mike and the Mechanics, I also heard them play one of my all-time favourite Genesis hits as well. So, anything else I've been up to? Yes, I have. There is a package sitting here. I'm going to have to get up for this, aren't I? There is a package. There's a package. But that's next week's video. Bye-bye. So this is the point in the video where I turn around to you, my viewer, and say, if you enjoyed the content of this video, please give it a thumbs up. The way the Google and YouTube analytic engines work is that the more likes you get against a video, the more it gets promoted by YouTube and Google, and therefore more people with the similar interests to what you have and I have get to see this content. This channel is driven by my love of music technology. That's what it's called, the Music Tech Guy Thought. If you've got queries, want to ask questions about themes or issues I raise on this channel, please, please, please do. Put your comments into the comment section below the video, and I will try to address whatever issue it is you've raised or whatever question you've raised. If it's something to do with me making future videos in terms of how to do something on a particular piece of equipment I possess, please feel free to say that as well. I can't promise to make videos on all the requests I get, but I do have a jolly good go at making most of them. Around about here is the subscribe button. Again, to do with the YouTube and Google analytic process, the more subscribers the channel gets, the more the channel gets promoted, and the more people get to see the content that you have obviously just watched. If you want to see my latest video, it will be in one of these 2 boxes on this side of the screen. Also, there is a second box there, and that video will be chosen for you by YouTube based on your YouTube preferences. I look forward to the next time that we interact, and I do mean interact, because I always enjoy reading your comments back to me. But for now, bye-bye.